go back over the basic definition. You would say, because some people have a lot of knowledge with the psychosocial.
With what?
Some people are having a great deal of trouble because they're thinking of psychological and social definition.
Just talk about why not.
Whereas they're dealing with an entirely different level of perception. Most of the people.
I know too, I know English, I know a little bit of Spanish, we should have
It's amazing when you're in Europe.
They don't get what you're saying.
I want to bring in one of my
Some of you are still having trouble with the dream. The dream is about what's in the imagination, sensitive memory. In other words, what has been stored from the past. And it's mixed with what's been the past and what's present in the at the moment. Their situation in bed. There's a lot of talk about young men was necking with a girl that night and he fulfills his sexual desires in the dream, that sort of talk. That may be so. But there are all sorts of things, whatever's in the imagination and the sensitive memory. Now, nature uses this to entertain us. Otherwise, why do we dream? I can't find any difficulty with that and don't understand why anybody has a difficulty with it. But a lot of people presume upon a metaphysical theory first and then force the knowledge of the dreams into that slot that they've formed. Such as Freud, for instance. Now, Freud didn't know anything about philosophy. He was not a philosopher, but he presupposed a philosophical teaching called nihilism, which some others, very few, very, very few, have had in their minds. But the dream is there to entertain us. And we read it with a symbolism in mind. For instance, there might be an orchestra playing. And suddenly there's a trumpets are playing. That's representing something that's disturbing me outside or inside, in the unconscious level or even in the subconscious level. Have you ever been asleep and somebody's calling you and you didn't realize that? You're dreaming and then suddenly you realize somebody's calling or there's a knock at the door. All sorts of things. They're all the conjunction of accidental images put together, and occasionally they form something that's correct with our lives that are happening during that day, an exam or something. It might be worried. When I was being examined on inorganic and organic chemistry, I can remember I was upset. I think I'd put down grams, or no, milligrams. They should have put down grams in physical chemistry. I just missed out. I came second place from getting the Dr. Short's chemistry prize because of that one little error. Well, it played on my mind through the night. What did I do? Did I do the right thing? I found I'd done the wrong thing. But the dream is either releasing us from anxieties, or it's entertaining us, preventing us from being anxious too much. But sometimes the images come together accidentally. And they'll disturb us, or they might enlighten us. And then we'll wake up often with the solution to a problem. Or you'll wake up and say, what a silly thing that was for me to worry about that. It woke me up last night, I went back to sleep, and straight away I'm dreaming about it again. I used to have a recurrent dream. And these do happen, recurrent dreams. And they're doing something to us. It's going, is it? I had a recurrent dream. I've never sold it. I had it for years. I haven't had it now for a number of years, thank God. But the church I used to go to when I lived near the Passionist Fathers Monastery, there's a wall going along the side of the sidewalk. There's just a wall about this high. And it was a very neat wall. What did I always dream about that wall for? There are about 3 different reasons. When I'd received First Holy Communion, my mother leaned over that wall and kissed me as we were all walking past. And the nun said us all walking in a fil indien, as the French say, in an Indian file. All like in twos, we're going around to the hall where they always have a lovely breakfast for us. Well, is it connected with that? I don't know. Or is it connected with something else? For a long time, I was the MC of the parish dance because of the Passionist Fathers, especially in the days of war. They didn't have too many people our age to be able to do things like that. Was it connected with that, which I eventually had to give up? I don't know. But a recurrent dream, sometimes it's telling you something's connected with it. It might be very, very difficult to recall. It'll take a depth psychologist to plumb the depths to try and find out what it is. They'll even render you semi-conscious or something like that to try and find out. I hope Dr. Nigro doesn't get this disc. He's a psychiatrist in Cleveland. He reads everything we do here and listens to it all. Sam's a very fine man, specializing in human family problems and specializing in sexual problems, that sort of thing. And a first-class scholar, writing all the time. But however, so you see, the symbolism of the dream, we're looking at it as if it's a symbol. We're looking at it when we're dreaming as if it's a real world, but it really is symbolizing something outside. And the oniric symbolism converts what comes into us into the dream world. Professor Powers, do you think that?
Yes, as long as you get away from the psychosocial definitions that we've been dealing with. I mean, we have to deal directly here with the principles of philosophy rather than what, let's say, Jung did with so-called analytical psychology.
Yes.
Now, for those who are interested in Jung and his dealings with this problem, the best person to confer with is Ira Progoff.
That's the one. That's the white book.
P-R-O-G.
I knew he grabbed some for an amazing beer.
He's considered the best interpreter of two things in Jung, that is, archetypes and what they mean symbolically, and also the recurring dream. I mean, I've had the same problem that you have, in that for years I find myself in a darkened city, and I get into a car, and the car tends to take over, and I speed farther and farther and farther and farther, and I get outside the city, and I'm totally lost, and then I suddenly have to wake up, because the dream is so unpleasant. But I couldn't tell you what it really means.
No.
But Jung was trying to say it means something like some sort of a wound in the personal unconscious. And do you remember his proof of the collective unconscious? He said, when you come to a clearing in the woods, you pause before you walk out. And that's a collective memory of the tribe, whether it's 40,000 years old or not, to preserve yourself. So if you rush right out of the clearing, you might be very exposed to whatever might be out there. So Jung used that as a proof for the collective unconscious, but it gives a clue to what he was thinking. He was convinced that most of our actions are controlled by the psychosocial. But your position is that's not so, because the intellect is very much involved. He would not really acknowledge that the intellect is involved, but it's strictly an emotional reaction of some kind. It seems to me that you're in better shape with the philosophical perception of what a dream is, because it connects very well with the idea that the dream is a story. It has a beginning, middle, and an end. And very often we struggle to construct a dream which has a beginning, middle, and an end, and it's not chaotic. Now, some of the most recent problems in dealing with media have been the difference between the movie, which is a dream, and the television, which is often flash. That is, quick flashes of ideas and pictures, but nothing put together. And that very often the television produces an enormous amount of anxiety for people because they can't put the flashes together.
Yes.
MTV.
That more and more there is less desire to put together a coherent story and more to simply jam the TV with images.
And all the people want is opinions.
Yes.
That's all the people want. They just need opinions. That's the era of curiositas, as it's called in Latin, curiosity. But the real thing, and that's why you people are here, is because of studiosity. Curiosity, they're praising in scientific work, the students must be taught to be curious. No, they must be taught to be studious, not curious. In other words, to find out causes and to see the continuity and to see the real explanation of things. But a lot of these men, the depth psychologists and others, don't have philosophy so often. They have merely psychology, and they've got a myriad of opinions in that, and each man forming his own. I've got a theory. Like a biologist I knew. I stayed at his home for a while when they first came to live in Ottawa. And you see, his wife and he had a theory. By leaving the baby in the middle of the bed and ignoring him, if he fell off, then he'll learn not to. That was their theory. I thought, what a harebrained idea that was. I mean, this is what you're getting people. I've got a theory of this, I've got a theory of that. A mathematician friend of mine, they don't have philosophy, and they don't have their concepts all sorted out and organised. And you hear all sorts of things. I was in London, England on one occasion, watching a whole lot of Australians come into a place called the Overseas Visitors Club, run by two South Africans who were skinning young people for their money. Anyway, by enticing them from Australia and New Zealand to live there, stay there, and selling them a story they could go and earn money and travel over Europe and come back and earn more money. Yeah, they got stranded there. Heard too many stories about that. But this fellow was giving me his theories about human life and about everything else. He didn't know who I was or what I did, but he poured his heart out. And I corrected him on something. He said, "Oh no, that's wrong. You'll learn that's wrong." I thought, you poor simpleton. I thought it was. Anyway, this is what psychologists often do. And it's small wonder that one of my friends, a psychiatrist, calls them a bunch of ninnies. A psychiatrist that Dr. Bonnet is in touch with is in California. And she thinks that psychiatrists are all a bunch of nuts. She said, "I have no psychiatrist friends and I won't have them." But you see, the trouble is, in the universities, they're not getting philosophical psychology, which we're getting. It'll take a while, but it'll dawn on you, and you'll see the everything coming together as we go along. That's why it's important not to miss classes, because there's a continuity in the development of it, unfolding of it. And the emotive states, the passions, are so important that we're going to start them now. But all of this boils down to this. Sleep is to allow the body to restructure, to reorganize itself. For instance, after looking at things all day, you'll get the eyes all crinkled, etc. You've got to have a restoration of rhodopsin and things like that to get the eyes functioning again. The dream is to make sure you stay asleep, except but it's a freewheeling of all these images. That's why we say the logic. There's really no proper logic, but you've got to understand what logic is. It's called a dreamed logic in this case, and there's no necessity about it. You will dream one thing and one night, and another thing, another night. Now, last night I was dreaming about something, but somebody was with me. Who was it? I don't know. It's strange. I woke up, I said, I was talking to Jenna on the phone, and I said, I dreamed about, I've forgotten now what it was, what the dream was about, but who was the other person with me? I've no idea.
Probably Bob or Betty.
Gee, I haven't even got a watch and chain I can give him. Yes, it probably was too. But what can happen? It can be the conjunction of many things. You haven't had enough sleep. You've had too much whiskey going to bed. You're worried about an exam tomorrow. The bed's uncomfortable. Oh, you're kicking half the covers off or something. Could be 1,000 things. So we've got to be careful of that. Now, a lot of that can gather in this unconscious life too, but can be brought to surface. Sometimes, maybe in another dream, it'll surface again. Like the recurrent dream that two people have spoken to me about tonight. But what's that wall that I've thought about? I've tried to puzzle it out. There's so many reasons that wall could be there. Was that where I first kissed Betty? Or was it where Betty gave me a black eye for the first time? I don't remember. It could be anything, any one of 1,000 things. Might have been sister. She might have punched me in the nose. Who knows? Anyway, there are satisfaction of our desires, etc. Yes. Also, our fears. There are 11 basic passions. It may be one where we'll come to that in a minute. Where there's happiness because we've got to the good that we were thinking about. Might be unhappiness because we've got to the evil we feared, etc. So, if anybody's still got a problem, do you think? See, there's a lady stealing cakes at the back there. You see, now I'll dream tonight she didn't give me one, so... So, any other problems?
Over there.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Doctor, do any of these dream experts, they talk much about when a dream becomes physical, a physical action occurs because of the dream?
Oh, that can happen. My brother was in charge of a police district,
No.
the equivalent of a captain, given different names in
I'm
Australia.
not talking about bedwetting.
And this is bedwetting.
I'm not talking about that.
And Les used to go around. We'd say, "Mom, he's doing it again." He'd be going, and he's sleepwalking. But it was always this. Don't know what it was about. None of us know. So it can be moved into action. Yes, we can be moved to action. You betcha. The locomotive power is moved by the appetites, which we're going to study now. And we'll study that, the connection between the intellect, the will, the imagination, the locomotive power, etc., and the muscular, nervous, neuromuscular system, etc. But anyway, let's get on with this now. If I haven't satisfied everybody, there are questions, please tell me now if you can, if you like. Yes, go ahead,
Maybe I
Professor.
can be a little help on this.
Speak up if you will.
Some of the people who are working in cognitive therapy right now
Yeah.
look at the dream as a replay. You know, you look at the television, you see the
Yeah.
play, the football play, but unless there's a replay, you really don't know what's going on. So that the function of the dream, for most normal people, is to replay the events of the day
Yeah.
in a dream context. In a sense, constructed not only to look at it again, but also to have an outcome.
Yes.
And that's the intellective part of it.
That can be one of them, yes, one of the things.
The reason we get so screwed up is that we're always confronted with the pathological in the dream, the emotive, the emotional content.
Yeah.
When really what you're trying to do as a philosopher is deal with the intellective content. And that is normally the function of dreaming for normal people.
Yes, that's true. Well, as I said, the appetites we're going to study now, they play a very big part. Fear. What does it cause these recurrent dreams, and my recurrent dream, which used to be? Why don't I get it now? You see, the appetites, the 11 passions, any one of them, aggressive appetites or pleasurable appetites, what causes that? But that's why I say we've been on guard about the logic of the dream. Be on guard about that because it's not as clear-cut as the people who write these books talk a lot about stuff like that. And do they really know? It's like the psychologists who write about psychology and don't know method, how to go about properly knowing what the psychophysical organism is really like. They don't have a really good grasp of that. So let's get started on the appetites. Right at the beginning, we'll have nominal definitions. There are two ways you can define something. You can have a nominal definition, which you'll be noticing I have been giving as we go along, and we can have a real definition. A nominal definition means we're defining the name. The real definition means what does that term mean today, as it were. What in this real world do we mean by that? Now, for instance, the word appetite comes from ad ketere, Petere means to seek. And ad means towards. To seek towards something. Appetite comes from ad petere. Now the word to make towards something, ad plus facere, affection. In Latin, just as in Italian, they double consonants to make things easier to pronounce. Now if you had to say ad plus petere, adpetite, that's too hard to say, so it just doubles the P, appetite. The D is converted to a P. Or ad facere, adfection, that's too hard to say, so it becomes affection. A lot of doubles in Italian. And by the way, they're supposed to be pronounced double. You see? In plus clinare, to lean towards. In can mean into or towards something. It means in this respect of going into something. So inclination, leaning towards. So an appetite, we usually refer to that to the power of, say, seeking something. Affection, we'll use that more in the psychological way of loving, seeking something because we like it. But inclination, you don't say he has an inclination for her, you say he has an affection for her. So there's a slight variation in the meaning. There's similar meaning. Now there are two kinds of inclinations. One which we call a natural inclination. A physician friend of mine, when he first started to learn some of this stuff, when I was a student, went at night to the Aquinas Academy with me, had great difficulty understanding how acid could have an appetite. He's using the word appetite too much to include just humanity. But other things have appetites too. And we speak of it in another way of natural appetites. Acid has a natural appetite to corrode metal. Hot coffee has a natural appetite to heat a spoon. Or inclination, but you wouldn't speak of it as an affection. So the first one, say an acid, sight has for its act of seeing, it's got a seeing colour. Intellect for its act of understanding. Hot water for its act of heating the spoon. Will for its act of love. The ancients used to say good is diffusive of itself. Between the 3rd and 6th centuries, there were what are called the New Platonists. Plato lived about 400 BC, 500, 400 BC. And the new Platonists, called Neoplatonists, there were 5 major ones. Plotinus, Porphyry, Proclus, St. Augustine, and the Pseudo-Dionysius. Those 5, but that's not important for us here now. We'll be having something to say about them later, incidentally. So, there are many types. Oh yes, they used to say that good is diffusive of itself. When you find something good, you want to spread it. Everything which is good has a tendency to stimulate us to share it with somebody. I've read things about what seducers have said to young children. They have seen something which is pleasurably good and they try to spread it by seducing little children, something like that. So, good is diffusive of itself. Bonum est sui diffusivum. Now there's one, that's a natural appetite. Knowledge is not contained in that. Now there's another kind called elicited and drawn out. Drawn out by knowledge. Elected. We elect somebody, we draw them out. So that lick or lek comes really from legere, to read. Comes from that. We draw it out by knowledge. It's elected by knowledge. Now there are two kinds. One which comes from the senses, a sensitive appetite, and one lot we call the intellective appetite. Each of them follows a knowledge. We sense ice cream. Oh, now we're drawn towards the ice cream. And the basic inclination is love. I love ice cream. I'm drawn out. I see it here now and smell the flavours, etc. And I'm drawn out by that knowledge, drawn to it. Bob sees Betty and he's drawn to her. But it's all right somebody else saying, oh, you should see Betty, you should meet her, she's a lovely, lovely young woman. When he sees her, gets to know her, then he gets to like her. So, now, there are two kinds of sensitive passions, the pleasurable, 6 of them, and the aggressive, there are 5 of them. So there's a difference between knowledge and appetite. Knowledge is bringing the world into us. Appetite is inclining us out to it in some way or another, either towards it or away from it. So we're going to see these appetites and build them up, a bit at a time. So knowledge, remember, brings the world into us. And appetites take us out to the world. Now on page 32, that started at page 31. Page 32, sensitive appetites. How many are there in the appetites? Empirical psychologists, and I remember Woodworth, I think he said there are 102. Every little feeling, every little inclination. Oh, I feel lousy today. Oh, we'll give that a name. I do this. Oh, I'm furious with her. But often, they're the same appetite. There's one proper way of defining the appetites. From the end of the act. We always judge these things from the end of the act. What the object is, remember that. Acts, habits, and powers are specified by their formal object. Never forget that. Ray just said 1/3 of philosophy is contained in that principle. That acts, such as the act of sight, habits, knowledge like history, knowledge like chemistry, and powers are specified by what they're aimed at. In two things which are related, you always determine their nature from the relationship. So, we divide them according to the natural method of division, according to objects, into 11 basic passions. And the foundation of all of these is love. Its object, what is known as good. The good is that which all men desire, as Aristotle defined it. Good may be useful good, pleasurable good, or honest good. Useful good, pleasurable good, or honest good. Honest good may be called worthy good too. Now, useful good and pleasurable good, some philosophers call them dishonest goods. They don't exist for their own sake. They exist for the sake of an honest good. So be careful of the word dishonest. But an honest good. Let me say, I knew this gentleman, he had a yacht. And from now on, I'm going to make a friend of him. He's got a beautiful yacht. Oh, I've got to make a very special friend of him. That's not a worthy good. I'm using him dishonestly. So that's the way the word honest means. Honest means not just employing him, but honest good, I be keeping his friendship for the sake of himself. Knowledge is a worthy good, or an honest good. A little curly-head, chubby-faced little boy is a worthy good, worth having for his own sake. Useful goods are for the sake of an honest good. For instance, we need to build a shed at the back or something like that, and you need materials to make that shed. You need something to build it out of. So we'll call them useful goods. A glass of beer is a useful good. But also, it's a pleasurable good. And also, it's a stomachic stimulant. It can stimulate the appetite. So it can be an honest good as well in a way. So some goods may be honest goods. Somebody might find, for instance, using psychomimetic drugs. Oh, that's great. Oh, I love them. But it may also be a dishonest good. Speaking from the point of view, the honest good, the worthy good, those which are worth having for their own sake. It may be pleasurable, but not honest, not worthy. So, the good is that which all men desire. Now, be careful of the word privation. Privation and negation of a good. A cat hasn't got an intellect. That's not a privation. It's not deprived of anything. That's merely a negation. A privation, a negation we define as the lack of a good. But a privation is the lack of a good that ought to be there. If some man is blind, we'll say that's the lack, a negation. But if a tree is, I'm sorry, what did I say? Privation, yeah, man, I said, didn't I? Yeah. If man is deprived of sight, that's a privation. If a tree is deprived of sight, that's merely a negation. It doesn't have sight, that's all we're saying. So we all love the good, but especially our own good. So evil is the lack of a due good. I think I left the word out there, didn't I? Yes, I did. It's lack. Evil is the lack of a due good, a good that ought to be there. That word due, by the way, comes from the French word devoir, and the past participle is dû. That's the past participle. Due means oughtness. French students will say, j'ai trop de devoirs. I've got too many oughts. This is the verb. I'm sorry. This is the verb to ought. You ought to do something. Je dois faire. I ought to do this or that. And they call mes devoirs my duties, my homework. Students call it their homework. And dû is the past participle. What ought to be there. What ought to be in something. So, it's the lack of something that ought to be there. That's what a privation is. So, a good is something that is known, that inclines us towards the thing. We all love the good, but especially our own good. And that's why Bob and Betty want to have children. They want duplicates of themselves. And incidentally, while I'm on that, let me just say this. All the talk about marriage today, same-sex marriage, it's rubbish from go to woe. I don't have to tell you that, you know that. Physically, psychologically, and physiologically, everything points to this, male and female. All through the animal kingdom. Bill Ganane, a so-called Catholic philosopher in the University of Sydney, wrote a big 2-page argument about contraception. And of course the Sydney Morning Herald loved it and published the whole lot. But anybody who wanted to refute it, they'd ignore you. And he tried to argue that that marriage is about enjoyment of each other's love. That's what's ruining our conversations today. The assumption is they're claiming everybody has a right to marry. Yes, but what does the word marry mean? Marriage is for the sake of the continuity of the species. So as I said to students who say, but what if they don't want children? Good. Now supposing I engage you to paint my house. You don't want the money, and you don't want the money, and you don't want to paint my house. Well, what the hell are we talking about? Is that a contract? Hardly. Nonsensical contract. You don't intend painting, and I don't intend paying you. Whereas we had a signed contract, let's suppose. So all of this talk about the end of marriage is love. The end of marriage is new live man, the continuity. So it's no contract at all. It's not a marriage at all. If two people of same sex get married, it's an utter absurdity. But they're going to redefine marriage. Now all of that is based upon ignorance. None of those people have any philosophy. A darn judge who attacked me in the court in Buffalo, and I wasn't in there, of course. The what do you call it? The prosecution attacked my statement, which I'd given to the judge, or posted to him. I wouldn't know the man if I tripped over him in the street. And he said, Dr. Waters doesn't understand the rule of law. Yes, and he doesn't understand the rule of natural law. That was his problem. So gross ignorance is out there today. So it's our loves that we have to judge all this by the end, the real end. And we know the real end of marriage by the physical structure of man and woman, the psychological structure, and the physiological structure, construction. So, we can love some good, and the good which is at the end of marriage is new live man. Not a new dead man, but a new live man. We love, for example, games. Hockey, as it is a good. You can read the rest there for yourselves. teaches, it's good for the development of the intellectual and moral order, teaches us how to live along each side of each other. Napoleon said, the battles of Europe were won on the playing fields of Eton. Eton is a great college in England, and it taught the men how to cooperate together, how they learned to work together, how they learned to take orders and to give orders. And they say you can never know how to give orders until you've learned to take them. And that's why he said the battles of Europe were won on the playing fields of Eton College. 2, knowledge. We love knowledge. This is a suitable good for the human intellect. I've never forgotten, I think her name was Jean, I can't remember. When I was a student in pharmacy, we had to be attached to a pharmacy somewhere. And I can remember a man rushed in one night. Bill Dwyer and I were the only two on duty that night. I was a student, he was the in charge. Could you call an ambulance? A man's just had his leg cut off by a tram. And Bill says, I'll call the ambulance. He left me to do the dirty work. So I went outside, I took one leg, 2 legs cut off, cut to pieces, blood, bone, flesh everywhere. I rushed back, grabbed our cloths. They had 2 men from the tramway company were trying to seal the legs off with bits of string. And I rushed out with the cloths. And you know, Bill never forgave me for that, for taking our cloths. He said, we would have had some cloths but for you, he said. He wasn't a bad guy, Bill. It was just silly things he said to me a few times. And but they tried to tourniquet the legs, but as a physician said to us later, one of our friends coming in, he said, they always die. The shock's too great. Legs cut to pieces like that. So, knowledge was what I was going to talk about. While I was there watching the 2 men who were trying to seal the legs off, a woman came in. I knew her casually. She was another business person there, and a boyfriend. He owned the place she worked in. And she said, let me see, Vince, let me see. I want to see. What? He said, don't look. No, don't look. He knew her well. So finally she did force her way in to have a look, and she said, well, blunk. We had 2 patients then. So we all have that curiositas, our desire to know. We treasure knowledge. We have curiosity. Nearly got me lost in wild bush on one occasion. I think I mentioned that before, on the Pigeon Loft Mountain. So, knowledge is a suitable good. Some people love philosophy, others law, others mathematics. Some love knowing cattle, plants. Some love art. Some love music and love creative work as in the arts. All see it as a certain good for them. But the third thing, food and drink, is good for the vegetative organism, thus sensitive appetite. 4, the common goods, as found in domestic and civil societies. The common good of the domestic society, the family, is new, live man. That's the common good. It's the only common good which is concrete, material, bodily. So, civil society, common goods, peace and order, civic friendship, justice. These are all common goods. Remember, our individual loves match our temperament and personality, which we'll say more about presently. So now, number 2, the essential division of the passions. Will I put it on the board, or have you all got the pages in front of you?
I don't have any.
But anybody without them? Don't you have the pages on the passion system? Right, the basic one is love. Love of the good. There's a spare copy here if somebody wants one. Joe, have you got one?
I have.
Okay. Well, love is the first one. These diagrams on page 33. That's the basis of all our lives of passions. By way of approach to the good, now love of the good is whether it's present or absent. I said at the university, for instance, I'd say this pretty frequently, and it's usually, the class might be after lunch or something like that. Or after breakfast. Do you like steak? Oh yes, I do like it. Do you want some now? Yes. Why? I always like steak and I never get it, the student said to me. So, wasn't saying much for the what do you call it, the cooking place over there. So, whether it's present or absent, you love something. But desire signifies a need for it to be present by way of approach, whether it's coming or you want it to be there. Desire. And a young man, for instance, we're waiting at a train station for Betty to arrive, and he's looking anxiously at every train. He's sort of, as we get closer, the person coming now, the person he wants to see, Betty, on that train, he's looking forward most anxiously to see her arrive. Then when she gets there, he's joyful. We can call it joyful, happiness, pleasure, whatever you like to call it. Delight. So love is whether they're present or absent, desire by way of approach, joy when they possess the good. Now, but not everything is good. Some things are evil. For instance, blindness is an evil. You'd hate to be blind. That's whether you've got it present or absence. Blindness, you would hate that. Gangrene of the foot, you'd hate that. But when it's approaching, it's by way of turning away, aversion. Turning right away. Oh, I don't want that. And when it's there, sadness. Sadness, or pain, if you like. Suffering, we'll say. When the evil is present. So they're the basic passions. 6. They're called essential passions. They're called the concupiscible or pleasurable is a sort of a modern word. But the word in all the ancient works will be concupiscible. Concupiscible. Con plus sk plus... Oh, what am I doing? Sorry, left half of that. Plus kupi plus sk plus ibo. Con means together or at the same time. Cupid. Should be kupi there. Cupid, there's the basis of the word. Cupid is one who fires an arrow and fills us with desire. Sk means something's coming on in Latin. It's overtaking you or coming on to you. Able, if you like. So it's, at the same time, this passion has desire coming on to us. Desire coming on to us. So they're the concupiscible appetites, or the pleasurable, and now we deal with the irascible.
Dr. Waters, am I reading this diagram correctly to say that the antithesis below, hate, is I would hate a thing whether it's present or...
Exactly,
okay.
yes. One is the love, the other is the hatred, you see. But you know, it's got to be known, you see, it's got to be known. There are people who hate, say, Christianity today, and they're exercising that. There's some terrible wars going on out there, as you all know. But what they're doing is, they've got the wrong knowledge. Absolutely the wrong knowledge. There are people recently who have become Christians who fought it before because now they've learned something. They've learned something about it. Look at that friend of mine. He said he wouldn't become a Catholic because he said, I think it's utterly absurd that, this was in Australia, Arthur Young, he said, you have to pay to go to confession. I said, well, I've been going to confession for a hell of a long years, but I've never paid a penny, and I don't know anybody else. It would be forbidden by the church. See? Then another fellow says, now this is the Catholic Academy of Sciences in the United States. Listen to what he said. He's not a full member. I'm the vice president, and he was talking to me about this. That he will not become a Catholic, never. That's why he can only be an associate member. He said because of the seduction of children, pedophilia, by the clergy. I said, did you know that a research paper has been done by a man who's not a Catholic and shows that it's far more rare than it is for other people outside? It's far more common outside the church than it is in the church. And as you probably know, they're clamping down and enforcing the seminaries to do psychological testing now. Oh, Dennis, I'm sorry.
The three appetites on the bottom look like opposites. Are those privations or...
Hate, aversion, you mean? Well, they're the opposite. See, love and hate, desire and aversion, joy and sadness, they're opposites. And love is the approach to the thing, hate is pulling away from the thing. Desire is Now the approach to the thing, the real approach and aversion is, I don't want that. Look, there are people who won't go to a doctor in case they find out they got cancer. There are actually people who talk like that. So joy and sadness. We hear a lot of talk about joys and sadness in life. But love and hates, desire and aversion, joys and sadness. This is set up more methodically than usually you find them in books. Now the irascible ones. Ira. It's the same as this on the board, but ira this time means anger. He's an irate person. I think we better stop there because we're out of time. It'd be better because we have a fair bit to do on this here. Does anybody need papers? Please tell me if you're not getting the stuff coming through on the computer. If there's anything wrong, let me know. This will take us into a much more, there's no good starting it now. We could start it, but look, let me say this. This is based upon anger against a difficult good. So you can read this over for yourselves. Difficult good. That's to say, not only is it a good, but it's difficult. For a dog, that bone is loved by that dog. He wants that bone. But now this introduces something new. There's another dog chewing at the bone. The difficult good. So read it like that, you see, before next class.
I only have 12 candy bars left.
Heather, could I have another one, please? I'll give it to Tweety Bird.
You can take all. We're only $12.
Oh, what a deal.
By any name. I didn't bring any money.
Pleasure. I love chocolate. I've got to have the diabetic type, you know. Want to make up for it with eating other things.
They're going to be reading about them. I had to go in a good box. We do too. We just were saying we like to do 2-year calendars. 1 year. As if we've already got doctor's appointments in February or something.
And they saw that as so when they didn't marry, they didn't wear the black robe, and there were the creamers going yeah, where your feet.
Anybody want to grab it and sit down?